This is Shockwave News Live. You can find me online at anchor.fm/Shockwave News. And of course, you can now find me on SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/Shockwave News. Okay, let's get right into the news. And today's Tuesday, April 7th, 2020. This is from naturalnews.com, the website naturalnews.com. One of the main articles they're saying here in naturalnews.com, a headline, officials starting to acknowledge that the coronavirus probably came from Wuhan research lab. And I got to stop and take a breath here and just say, no shit, Sherlock. No shit, Sherlock. We know that the virus came from Wuhan. China has been in denial ever since because it makes the Chinese look bad. It's insanity. It's absolutely insanity. You just want to stop and you just want to go, well, duh, how stupid can these people be? And again, the WHO is bought and paid for. China is investing lots and lots and lots of money to the WHO, the WHO, the World Health Organization. I like to refer to it as the WHO. They're bought and they're paid for. The article goes on to say that early on in the Wuhan coronavirus or COVID-19 crisis, they reported how it was that strange coincidence that China's only BSL-4 biosafety lab at level 4, this is in Wuhan, laboratory where deadly viruses are contained, just so happens to be located in Wuhan, the epicenter of the global pandemic, and now the government officials are starting to acknowledge this is a strange anomaly as well. British politicians, in fact, are beginning to suggest that maybe, just maybe, the novel coronavirus is an engineered bioweapon that was released from a Chinese facility, perhaps on purpose, which is why it left so insistent that nobody refers to the virus as having come from China. Perhaps they know that linking the virus to China might reveal that this is truly a Chinese virus or COVID-19 that deserves greater scrutiny than simply being accidental consequence of China's filthy animal wet markets. Now, I've been saying on this podcast that the bats didn't do it. The bats had nothing to do with this. They're accusing in the Chinese wet market, the Chinese, the government, not the people, the government is blaming the bats for this. It's insanity, folks. The bats made me do it. The bats got away. The bats that they eat all types of food over there in China, okay? The bats, the rats, they eat just about everything, even cats and dogs. They eat anything and everything over there in China. So the government decided to concoct this crazy, asinine concoction of a story saying that the wet market there contaminated a bunch of animals and there was it came from the bats. I mean, how stupid do you think we are? Seriously, folks, how stupid? Well, I'm going to answer how stupid the world is, how stupid some of the people over here in the United States are. They believe every damn thing on the news. They believe fake news. They believe MSNBC, CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS. They believe the mainstream media. Whatever the mainstream media says, that's what people believe. Same thing's going on over here in the United States with this lockdown and or stay-at-home orders from the state. The stay-at-home. If you're not an essential worker, you need to stay home, which is really stupid and asinine, but that's here for another story. So let's go back to the story. While the balance of scientific evidence contends that the Wuhan coronavirus, or COVID-19, first transmitted to humans from one of the live animals in the wet market, I just said that, the prospect that the virus may have emerged as part of something much more sinister is no longer being discounted by the British government. Well, thank you very much for the UK, the British government, and hopefully the rest of the world will wake up over there in Europe and every place else. This was a bioweapon. They're trying to create something so that the Chinese government, this is the military, i.e. Xi Jinping and company, the president and his corrupt government, his dictatorship over there in China. This was created as a bioweapon in order to be released at some point in time. This is a test run right now to see how it's going to affect people. And once it's released, then they want to ultimately start a war and not have to fire a shot. And this is exactly what the COVID-19, or as I like to call it, its old name, the coronavirus, is doing right now to America and just about every other country around the world. The Chinese know exactly what they're doing. They're not dumbasses. They're not stupid. That dictatorship, crazy, evil government, communist government in China knows exactly what the heck they are doing. 110%. So let's continue and finish out the article. Reports that a member of Prime Minister Boris Yeltsin's emergency committee has stated he cannot rule out the possibility that the Wuhan coronavirus, or COVID-19, may have first spread from humans being released from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. This member of the so-called COBRA Committee, which receives detailed classified briefings from various security services, stated there's a credible alternative view based on the nature of the virus. Perhaps there is no coincidence that there is a laboratory in Wuhan. It is not discounted. Okay. They go on to say, it should be noted, despite the BSL 4 rating, that the Wuhan Institute of Virology isn't necessarily as safe and as protected as claimed to be. There have been multiple unverified reports that workers there were sprayed with infected blood before being allowed to carry potential infection back to the population. There's also another institute in the city known as the Wuhan Center for Disease Control, which is located a mere 3 miles from the wet market, that's officially been blamed for the pandemic, that also conducts experiments on animals such as bats and uses coronavirus for test. Well, there you go. That should just about nail it right there. As I said before, it's a bioweapon, and they're testing on animals. The animals, again, didn't have anything to do with this. They were testing on animals. They screwed up because they have a BSL 4 level rating, meaning a very high biochemical rating that they should be able to contain most viruses. However, they did not. This was released on purpose. And again, if they're doing experiments on a bat, think about it. They inoculate the bat. They stick in the animals. They prick them with needles, and then they watch them run around. And 99.9%, almost 100% of the time, actually, they end up just destroying the animals. Now, why would you prick a bat with a needle and infect a bat and then let a bat run wild? And if the bat did run wild, why wouldn't the bat just fly away? See, again, this means and makes no sense whatsoever, as usual, typical Chinese BS. You see, the Chinese want to save face, as always, and the way to save face is always pass the buck, lie, and blame the other person. Therefore, that takes the guilt and pressure off you by blaming another person, and you can still, as the Chinese would say, you could still save face that way. So that's something that really, really think about. It's crazy. And of course, as I finish up the article, as you might expect, the communist Chinese regime denies any wrongdoing part that's led to the release of the Wuhan coronavirus or COVID-19. Perhaps the world will never know the full truth. So that's something to really think about. They like to lie and lie and lie, but obviously we all know where the virus came from. We know where President Trump keeps saying it's the China virus, it's the China coronavirus. So we all know that. That is the truth and nothing but the truth, and they can deny it all they want, but that's just a fact of life. We know the Chinese are not to be trusted. We know the Chinese lie constantly. We know the Chinese are not a good ally, and we do know where the coronavirus came from and who did it and why they did it, and we know the rest of the story. Okay, this is Shockwave News reporting. If you like the podcast, like, subscribe, share. You can find me on Anchor. That's anchor.fm/Shockwave News. And, of course, now find me on SoundCloud. That's soundcloud.com/Shockwave News. This is Shockwave News reporting live. Be safe. Take care. I'm out of here.